Hi everyone, this is our channel, Meet the Real Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
Everyone has people who love, respect, and worry about them, and we sometimes make sacrifices to make them happy. Have you ever asked yourself how much you would be willing to sacrifice if a loved one really needed help? How far will you be willing to go? If you want to know the answer, then please listen to my story. My name is Carla, and I'm 18 years old. I live with my parents and my two brothers, Kevin and Warren. My father worked at a gas cylinder factory. It was a dangerous job, but in our city, available jobs were very limited. My mother was a housewife. She took good care of us. Our life was quite simple. Despite the long working hours, Dad would come home and always make the time to play and joke around with us. My brothers and I knew that our parents were doing their best to give us a happy, comfortable home. As a result of their efforts, I strove to do well at school. Dad would always say that he wanted us to get prestigious jobs in the future, that this was his hope, his dream, but it didn't quite turn out that way. To make ends meet, Dad was forced to work more shifts at the factory. One day, while we were watching TV together, the telephone rang, and Dad answered it. I heard him tell the other party that he was on his way, and he went off to the factory. It seemed that there was a problem, a serious problem at the factory, and they needed Dad's help. Though the tone of his voice worried me, I didn't say anything. Dad hugged us and said that he would be back soon. Later that night, after we had gone to sleep, Mom's screaming woke us up. We ran to the living room to see her standing there, holding the phone in her hand. I slowly took it from her and asked the man on the other end what was going on. He replied, "I'm sorry to tell you this, young lady, but your father died while rescuing a lot of workers. He saved many lives and was a very brave man. The loss of our dad turned our life upside down. We missed his jokes, his laughter, his dreams. We needed his support. Our debts started piling up. We barely had enough for food. Dad hadn't left us much, just a little bit for school tuition. Mom became depressed. I happened upon a job post for an opening at Dad's factory. They needed a trainee, and once the trainee had finished the required training period, they would be hired at a reasonably high starting salary. Unfortunately, the work was for men only. Our home situation was desperate, so I decided to do whatever it took to get this job. I went to my bedroom and cut my hair. It wasn't easy, but I had to. When I walked into the kitchen for breakfast the next morning, Mom was surprised by my new look. She asked me why I cut my hair so short. I told her that I had to get serious and find a job first to survive. I told her that I would complete my studies while working. She remembered Dad's wish for us kids, that we would get prestigious jobs someday, and I promised her that I would achieve Dad's dream for us. I asked her to wish me luck. She cried, but then she smiled sadly. On the day of the interview, I wore loose clothes and took off. The workers there seemed so strong. That was expected. They needed to be, to handle the hard work. I told the interviewer that my name was Kevin and that I would do my ultimate best. Finally, they called me in to say that I had passed the interview. That was my first step. It was hard to balance my studies with the work training, especially because there were a lot of competitors for that job. Though, step by step, I was handling the training quite well. One day, during training, while we were reading an internet article about gas factory accidents, the factory's emergency siren sounded. Dad's accident immediately came to the forefront of my mind. I got worried and tensed up, but I calmed myself by thinking of my family. I told the trainer that I had an idea to stop the gas leak safely. I told him that I needed to get to the control room to explain what had to be done, so he took me to the control room. The head engineer there looked at my young face, and I could see a mocking look in his eyes. I proceeded to tell him what I thought should be done. His eyes got wider and wider as I explained a solution that apparently he had never thought of before. He promptly implemented my solution and restored the plant to safety, without any casualties or additional equipment damage. He thanked me for a job well done. He asked my trainer about me, who said that I was new here. Then he told the trainer that I had a promising future. He told me that the last time they had a problem like this, an employee had to sacrifice himself to save the other workers. I went home and told Mom about what happened. She was thrilled and hugged me proudly. The next day, I went back to work and was greeted by all the workers. They thought I was a hero. The manager called me into his office. I used this chance to tell him my secret. I told him my first secret, that the worker who had sacrificed himself at this very same factory was my father. I told him that I had studied Dad's accident and thought about it a lot and contrived a better, safer solution so that when it happened again, I'd be ready. He said that he was proud of me, that I was the son of that brave man. Then I hit him with my second secret, that I was Dad's daughter, not a son. He was shocked, but he didn't react as I had expected. He placed a hand on my shoulder and told me that I was braver than most of the men at his factory. As a reward for both my dad and I helping save lives at the factory, he gave me a raise and a cash bonus too. I returned home with the cash bonus, and I told my family about my day. They all hugged me and cried tears of happiness. Eventually, I finished my studies in engineering, and I am now a control room engineer at the same factory. I didn't quite achieve Dad's dream, but I think he would be proud of my choice. Life unexpectedly hits us with pivotal moments sometimes, some good, some harmless, some deadly. You have to be ready for it when it does.
I am addicted to food. I suffer a lot. I need help. I've tried to give up, but I fail every time. Hamburgers. Who can give up eating hamburgers, especially with barbecue sauce? I didn't mind this kind of addiction, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me begin by introducing myself. I am Patricia, 15 years old, living with my parents and my brother. I lead a quiet life. No interests, no hobbies, except for eating, that is. Food is my faithful friend. It never leaves me. It is my partner, my soulmate. But having food as your soulmate has insidious side effects. A dark side, if you will. It denies me a healthy life, robs me of the energy to play, and causes me to sleep excessively. I would much rather stay at home with a bag of potato chips than go out and exercise. My soulmate ultimately betrayed me, though, last Thanksgiving at my granny's home. She lives in a state nearby. Granny was a clever doctor and an excellent cook at that. She could conjure up something really delicious. On that day, she had prepared barbecue turkey with nuts and other secret recipe ingredients. The taste was so great, as if it had descended from heaven itself. I felt like I was fighting a food war, and I had to win at all costs. I ate and ate and ate. I don't know why, but I just couldn't control myself. I attacked that turkey like it was the last on the planet. But every culinary war with a worthy adversary, such as the barbecued turkey, has its own unique type of casualties. Suddenly, I found myself unable to breathe. I fell to my knees and passed out. The turkey had won. I woke up later in the hospital, though, still clinging to an unfinished turkey leg. The doctor told me that I was gaining way too much weight. He said that I should be put on a diet. Diet? Man, how I hated that word. It hung over my head like the sword of Damocles. It meant depriving me of my passion, my reason for living. I considered eating vegetables in small amounts to be the worst form of cruel and unusual punishment, the worst form of torture imaginable. Imagine thinking of a wonderful, greasy, cheese-laden pizza with all the toppings and then suddenly opening your eyes to find a healthy green salad bowl. But I had reached a turning point in life. One day, my brother was playing on the street, while I was sitting at home gazing longingly at a tempting piece of cheesecake, just sitting there, taunting, daring me to eat it. I struggled mightily to resist the urge, but in the end I succumbed and wolfed it down like a starving animal. Shortly afterwards, I began feeling dizzy, but I was unable to call for help this time, and then I passed out again. I was taken to the hospital. While lying in the hospital bed, half conscious, I overheard the doctor say to someone, "She needs to stop eating or it will be the death of her." I thought to myself, whoa, death? So I made up my mind right then, right there. I resolved to fight a new war, a war against my appetite. On our way back home, I told my father that I wanted to see a nutritionist. He was delighted to hear that. Later, at the clinic, the doctor welcomed us in. She told me how to overcome my eating fetish. She gave me a strict diet regimen with a schedule full of healthy meals. I kept telling myself that winning this war was possible, I simply had to be patient and persevere. I stuck to the strict diet and did some physical workouts. My parents supported me wholeheartedly. I was enthusiastic. I can totally do this. A week passed quickly, and I eagerly visited the doctor to receive some good news. When the doctor weighed me and told me that my weight hadn't changed at all, I was crestfallen. She looked at me and asked me, how was this possible? I told her I didn't know, because I was following her diet thoroughly, though it did require a tremendous effort on my part. Another week passed, and again I went to the doctor. The results were the same. She said to me, Patricia, are you sure you're following the diet I prescribed for you? I said yes. She sat there wondering. Then she told me with a puzzled look on her face, it's odd, but your weight is increasing, not decreasing. This unexpected piece of news mystified me. Another week passed. No change. The doctor was nonplussed. I returned home with a dejected look on my face. My father asked me what was wrong. And when I told him, he laughed. Do you believe that? My father actually laughed at my predicament. I was furious. He gestured an apology with his hand and then told me that it was my own fault. I was puzzled. What are you talking about? He told me that I had been sleepwalking to the refrigerator every night and eating everything in sight. I was taken aback. I couldn't believe it. Stop acting like you didn't know it, he said. You must have been awake. I replied, no, Father, I'm not acting. I was truly unaware that I've been sleepwalking and eating in my sleep. But now that we've finally solved the mystery of the increasing weight, we returned to the doctor with this new information and told her the situation. She laughed and told me that my discipline had denied my body the food it craved, but my brain had refused to cooperate and had overridden my will by urging me to eat in a subconscious state. She told me not to worry, though, that she could treat that. Armed with this knowledge and her support, and the support of my family, I felt that I could finally win this war.
Hi, I'm Samantha. What is the biggest shock you have ever experienced in your life? Have you ever shocked your family, parents, siblings? What if you were to discover that the people you live with aren't really your blood relatives? Please listen to my story and advise me. I'm an only daughter to a lovely, kind, and generous family. They have given me the moon. Our life was stable, and my parents would sacrifice anything to make me happy. I loved them dearly. But unfortunately, I've discovered a shocking truth. We were moving into a new home, a villa that my father had bought. I loved reading a lot, and I had a lot of books in my father's study. I entered the study to collect the books for the move. While doing so, I dropped some files from his desk. As I was gathering them up from the floor, I found a picture of me with a strange man. I thought he was perhaps one of our relatives, or a friend of my dad's. There was a date on the photo, which happened to be my birthday. My curiosity led me to look through the file. I found my birth certificate with my name on it, but the father's name was not the man that I currently knew as my father. There was also a photo of this man with my mom, as bride and groom, and a marriage certificate that had my mother's name and the name of a strange man. There was also a birth certificate that had my name and the name of my current father. Many thoughts flashed through my mind as I realized that my dad, whom I was living with, wasn't my real dad. I desperately wanted to speak with my parents about this, but I was afraid that I might not want to know the truth. We moved to our new villa. My mood changed. I became gloomy and spent a lot of time thinking. My parents noticed my mood change and asked me what's wrong. I found the date of the man's death and I went to see his gravesite. There, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I was surprised enough to turn around and see my father. Mom was with him. After we returned home, they told me the story. The man with me in the picture was my real biological father, but he died in a terrible car accident when I was 3 months old. My parents showed me the related newspaper clipping. My mother was poor and couldn't make ends meet. She met my current father, who supported her and me. They subsequently fell in love and got married. He couldn't have children of his own, so he adopted me and gave me his name. This man gave me everything: love, encouragement, and support. He was as kind as a real father could be. I was shocked when I learned of all this. Should I accept and love this man as my father and stay with him? Or should I revere my deceased father in the picture as my father? I'm so confused. Do you think I should accept this truth and be happy with my current situation? What's your advice?